Hello, welcome to the Rantmeister's YouTube channel. Click on the subscription button down below to subscribe to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about that RFK Jr. just announced that he's going to be running as an independent. In case you don't know, RFK Jr. was running in the Democratic primary, and he was running against Joe Biden, who is, of course, the presumptive nominee to be president for the Democratic Party since he is already currently the president. So when he runs through his first term, he'll then run again for a second term. I guess RFK Jr. finally got the hint that there's no chance in hell that he's going to be able to win the Democratic primary this election cycle. So he decided to announce that he's going to be running as an independent. This has huge implications, okay? He's already polling at about 17%. And this is huge for a third-party candidate, especially at this point in the election cycle. Currently, Donald Trump, who's likely going to be the Republican nominee, and Joe Biden both have abysmal polling numbers. Both of them have polling numbers, I believe, are in the 30-ish% range. The reason this is huge is because you just got to bring this back to the last time anything like this happened, which was in 1992, when Ross Perot ran as a third-party candidate, ran as an independent against both George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. In 1992, Ross Perot, running on a third-party platform in which he basically advocated an isolationist foreign policy combined with reducing immigration and along with restricting trade. Sound familiar, anybody? He managed to get 20% of the vote in 1992. He ran as a populist back at a time when populism didn't really have a chance, unlike today, in which populism is rising in full force on both sides of the political spectrum. Ross Perot started at much lower poll numbers than RFK Jr. has now, yet managed to get 20% of the vote. And it's quite possible that it's because of Ross Perot that the election ended up going toward Bill Clinton. However, of course, Ross Perot likely drew votes from both parties. So this brings us forward to today. One difference between here and then is that the requirement for an independent candidate to get on the debate stage was lower in 1992. So Ross Perot was able to get on the presidential debate stage in which the three of them were debating together. So if you look at, say, the 1988 presidential debate, you're only going to see Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan. Yet if you go to the 1992 presidential debate, I believe it's the only time in modern history that you actually see three candidates on the presidential debate stage. And I don't mean a primary debate. I mean the presidential debate in which the different political party candidates face off against each other. And because he was able to get on the presidential debate stage, he was able to reach a much larger mass of people, and he ultimately got 20% of the vote, despite starting at such low poll numbers. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. is currently around 17%, and get this, even though they raised the floor, the polling requirement in order to qualify, and the current requirement is that you have to get, on average, 15% support across 5 different national polls. Notice that I just said his current polling numbers are around 17%, which means that it's very likely, assuming his polling numbers stay the same or increase, that this could end up being the first time since 1992, 30 years, that we get 3 candidates, again, debating each other on the presidential debate stage. And this is huge. And given the fact that he's starting at a higher polling threshold, it's very likely that him showing up on the presidential debate stage will give him an additional boost. Meaning that I think that in current polls, it's shown that he can get 20% or a bit less if the election was today. And he'd be drawing from both parties because roughly the other 2 main parties split the vote basically down the middle. Though I think Trump might have a little bit of an edge. But here's the thing, he's drawing votes from both parties. And if you think about it, that's now. If he was to show up on the presidential debate stage, likely those numbers would go up, just like they ended up going up for Ross Perot. So I could easily see him going up to 25, even 30% of the vote, easy. And once you're getting at the 30% of the vote, think about that. That's almost a third. That's almost a third of the vote, right? Amongst 3 candidates, which means he's almost in a 3-way tie. Granted, obviously, this is just my own intuition driving this, but if you think about it, if you think about the current climate in which everybody's so dissatisfied with the two main political parties and the two main candidates that are available, meanwhile, we have a third party presidential candidate who is capable of appealing to both Democrats and Republicans. He can appeal to Democrats. Why? Because he has the Kennedy name, and at the same time, he's very much a Democrat on a lot of political issues, such as the environment, for example. Such as he also has a strong belief in the role of the regulatory state. Meanwhile, he also can appeal to Republicans. And you might ask why. Well, for a lot of the reasons that have already been espoused in the news. Have been very strong advocate against pushing the COVID vaccinations on everyone, for example, and pushing everybody to get more and more boosters, which is a popular stance of a lot of Republicans. He's also rather warm to their feelings on the border, which he just expressed when he announced his presidency. He said that while at first he didn't believe that this was coming from good intent, he went down to the border himself and he talked to Border Patrol officers, he talked to migrants, and he recognized that the issue is a lot more complicated than what the Democratic Party has been leading a lot of people to believe. And that there, in fact, has been a big surge, especially lately, in illegal migration, of a lot of people claiming asylum and refugee status in a lot of cities in the nation not knowing what to do about it. And he's recognizing this issue. And he's also clearly aligning himself with the Republican-based voter on this issue. And this is a huge issue for those voters, okay? Immigration is just huge. So that will help him with the Republican Party base as well. So if you take the fact that RFK Jr. embraces a lot of fringe theories that, of course, are often derided as conspiracy theories, and perhaps they are for good reason, and sometimes perhaps not, you have to acknowledge that this is going to help him with Republican voters. This will also likely help him with certain Democratic voters as well, right? So if you think about it, there's a lot of Black Americans who have a lot of skepticism of the medical industry due to bad events that have happened in the past affecting the Black community. So when you combine these two, the fact that he's able to pull from both sides suggests that he actually has a real shot. And then when I listened to his presidential announcement, I could tell that he was really sincere and believed in what he was saying. And that he really wanted to return America to being no longer a people divided, but a people united instead. And that he believed that the two parties, he eloquently stated, and I really suggest you watch his announcement video if you haven't, that the two parties want us to be divided because it benefits them. It benefits their duopoly of control over our political system. That he wants to break up that duopoly and then assert the control of the American people, And there's lots of reasons to be skeptical of how much he'd be able to do if he gained power or whatever, but there's certainly one thing I do know, and that is that I'm in the camp of believing that the current system is broken, and the current two-party duopoly is broken in this country, and that this candidacy is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, likely for many of us, or at least a once-in-30-year opportunity to actually be able to protest against the two-party duopoly in a meaningful way. So I, for one, am going to be voting for RFK Jr. for these reasons. Because I believe that in this time, we need to think beyond just the next election. And we have to start thinking about the health of our republic, the health of our democracy. So I, for one, will be casting this vote for RFK Jr. because I believe that at this point in time, neither of the two political parties are going to take us in a direction that helps the nation as a whole. That's all for today.